Trump's tariffs have broke the global markets, plunging Bitcoin to its lowest levels in 6 months. Despite the world's largest asset managers like BlackRock and Fidelity talking about Bitcoin retirement products, Bitcoin can't seem to decouple from the equity markets. And many people are wondering, is Bitcoin's bull run over? Is Bitcoin headed back to the 60K purgatory range, or is this the greatest asymmetric buying opportunity in Bitcoin's history? Today, we're going to cover whether Trump's tariffs will crash the markets more. I'm sure everyone was wondering what was going on in the Bitcoin price, what's going on in the macro economic landscape. And of course, we're going to try to uncover why Bitcoin is dumping. And the only thing that really matters, explain when and why you should be buying the dip. So let's get into this, guys. We got a lot to cover. And of course, I am not alone. We have Luke Mikic, the one and only, the probably the most bullish person making content, and Craig from the Bitcoin conference with the programming. So thank you guys. Welcome. And let me just go through this because we have a pretty big saga here. So, just kind of grasping what's going on, where we are right now in the markets. We're seeing that there is a lot of uncertainty going on. If you've been watching the markets, you're probably seeing that there was some blood on the streets. Friday was bad. Thursday was bad. Sunday night, Bitcoin crash. This morning, we are seeing some tricky stuff going on, and I'm going to try to explain what's going on in the markets. But let's start with what Trump has been saying, because this is essentially what everyone is watching. So April 6th, yesterday, we got a tweet or a quote from President Trump saying that sometimes you have to take medicine when asked about the current market conditions. As you know, we've been kind of covering the last couple of weeks what is going on in the macro landscape. And there's been a lot of conversation, or rather maybe consensus around the idea that what we're seeing right now is this planned Trump explosion. Maybe they are detonating the markets because essentially, they want to get the interest rates down. They're trying to reel in Jay Powell and the Fed and get that under the U.S. Treasury. And of course, all of these tariffs to essentially balance trade around the world is making people feel very uncomfortable right now. But hey, Trump's essentially saying we need to give the economy some medicine right now, because for a long time, we've been seeing every president around the world, or rather every president in the history of the U.S., well, not the history, but most of it, is essentially kicking the can down the road. Now, updating you guys this morning, we got this news from Unusual Whales. It's basically the worst 3-day performance for the S&P 500 since October 1987. And if you've been listening to a lot of the interviews we've been doing with Larry Lepard, or anything Larry Lepard has been doing, he has been connecting what we're seeing in the markets to potentially the, Black Monday of 1987. Now, we didn't really get that this morning. Obviously, it's still early in the trading day and the trading session. But here is Donald Trump's take on Truth Social. And this was this morning. This was before the markets opened. So he goes, oil prices are down. Interest rates are down. The slow-moving Fed should cut rates. Food prices are down. There's no inflation, and the long-time abused USA is bringing in billions of dollars a week from the abusing countries on tariffs that are already in place. This is despite the fact that the biggest abuser of them all, China, whose markets are crashing, just raised its tariffs by 34%. On top of its long-term, ridiculously high tariffs, plus not acknowledging my warning for abusing countries not to retaliate. They've made enough for decades, taking advantage of the good old USA. Our past quote-unquote leaders are to blame for allowing this and so much else to happen to our country. Make America great again. Now, remember, guys, if you've been watching the show over the weekend, if you watch BitBlock Boom, kind of what Dante's been putting out on the channel, he's been saying a very interesting take here is this idea that what we're seeing in the markets, Trump is essentially going to blame the Biden administration. He's new on the job. He's basically got the first 100 days or first 180 days to shake up the markets and essentially put all that blame on the previous leadership. And then he will start to, get his profit gains from the bottom of the market. It seems like he's kind of doing that. He's kind of hinting towards that a little bit. Now, the interesting thing we saw this morning was a fake news news article this morning. It was really like a Twitter headline that Reuters ran with, and it was that the White House, essentially, this was the fake news, was going to put a 90-day pause on the tariffs. Well, it came out on CNBC roughly like 30 minutes later that this was fake news, but the markets reacted favorably. They started to pump on this news that they're going to stop this tariffs going. So again, I'm not going to go too chart boy on you guys, but I do want to look at what's going on in the SP 500, in the NASDAQ, in the 10-year bonds, and of course in gold, and then we'll reel this back into Bitcoin. So first of all, though, guys, I don't know if you guys were on TradingView this morning, but like their servers were down. They were having a lot of trouble. It seems like everyone and their mother was looking at TradingView to see what was going to happen on Monday, whether it was going to be a bloody Monday or whether the markets would react favorably. So we saw SPX, or the SP 500. It did kind of respond favorably. As of now, we are in a green day. But if you zoom in, and forgive me, guys, if this doesn't work. Okay, we got it. All right. So you can see here that this green pump here was on this 90-day tariff pause. And then right when they found out, it kind of dumped back down. It seems to be going kind of sideways. So it doesn't seem like we're going to get a bloody Monday yet, but it did go down. Now, okay, Luke, yeah, you're pulling some stuff. Now, moving forward, of course, we're going to just go kind of global markets here. We are going to do some chart boy stuff. I'm not going to chart boy you too much, but we have NASDAQ, again, doing something very similar to the SP 500. It did drop, but it seems to be recovered. It seems like it's a green day. It seems like maybe the tariff uncertainty isn't really going to blow up all the markets yet. Obviously, there's still time for this to take place, but maybe it is what Trump's been saying, that the markets need to take some medicine first. Now, of course, going further, we have gold's kind of dumped from its all-time high. And of course, gold is the legacy store of value here. And it's also reacting in a similar way to what we're seeing from the Bitcoin price. So now reeling this back in, we got the 10-year bonds. And this might be the most interesting thing we've seen. Look at this green candle here, guys. We were all talking about this over the weekend. Oh man, it looks like the planned detonation of the economy or Wall Street, and essentially driving people into treasuries. It seems like the rates have responded in the opposite direction of what Trump's been doing, which might be the most interesting thing we're seeing right now. We all understand what the Fed's been trying to do. They obviously have two mandates, which is to lower inflation and, of course, make sure that unemployment doesn't get out of hand. And this whole scenario we've been seeing in the market is essentially Trump trying to drive down the 10-year bond yield under 4%. A lot of people have been saying it should go to around 1%. Well, it's reacting in the opposite direction, which is very interesting to watch. Now, just kind of reeling this back into Bitcoin. I'm sure you guys saw the Bitcoin price. We got down to 74K this morning. Yesterday it dumped, but it seems to be holding kind of stable. Obviously, we'll see what happens later in the market. But one thing that I did kind of troll, I was trolling yesterday. I was having fun. Dante was over before he left back home, and I was kind of just bear posting on Twitter just to have some fun. And I go, death cross, pack it up, boys. We had a good run, essentially saying the bull run's over. But I don't think the bull run is over. But Spoon Man basically hit the nail on the head. For whatever it's worth, they usually mark the bottom of a move. So going back to the Bitcoin chart, you'll see we hit the death cross. And if you look at historically, once you get a death cross, it seems to be going sideways. So maybe this is the bottom. Maybe we're trending between, as a lot of us have been saying, this 90K, 75K sideways chop solidation. So it looks like maybe we've hit the bottom, boys and girls. Let's hope. But at the very least, we get cheap sats. So if you are kind of sitting on the sidelines thinking it's going to go lower, I think we might have hit the bottom. And this is probably where we reel in Bitcoin and whether you should be buying Bitcoin. Obviously, this is a dip. We all know the memes in Bitcoin. When it dips, you buy the dip. This is what you do. Now, we covered this on the show, I believe it was Friday, but we didn't play you the clip. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent basically coming out here. This is the most bullish administration on Bitcoin we've seen ever. And he's saying Bitcoin is becoming a store of value. So I want to play that clip for you guys real quick. And then we have even one more bullish take here on whether or not you should be buying Bitcoin. But let's hear Scott Bessent's view on Bitcoin becoming a store of value.
So
Interesting to say the least. Could you have ever thought that Janet Yellen would say something of that nature, that Bitcoin is becoming a store of value? She was taking the opposite. Now, the last thing is kind of, a heuristic that you hear a lot. It's essentially when there's blood on the streets, that's when you should be buying. And CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, just doubling down on this. He might actually be extremely bullish on Bitcoin. He says market chaos is a buying opportunities. He thinks Bitcoin is going to be the next global reserve currency. Remember his stupidly bullish predictions of 700K Bitcoin this year. It seems like the big boys out here are getting really bullish on Bitcoin. Obviously, we're still a very tiny asset in the global market landscape, but all things considered, I would say Bitcoin is reacting very favorably. Of course, on Friday, Bitcoin kind of went stagnant while everything was dropping. Now we're seeing that, hey, Bitcoin isn't dropping too much. Yes, we hit that 74K range. Arthur Hayes, Larry Lepard have been saying something very similar, that we might see a quick dip down into the 70K before we start to hit the rocket boosters. It seems like their macro analysts is it's kind of on point right here. So if you are new to the Bitcoin space, if this is your first drop, if this is your first real big dip, welcome to Bitcoin. Welcome to the roller coaster. This is the buying opportunity. This is when you earn your stripes. This is why we always say, not only here on Simply Bitcoin, but amongst Bitcoiners, that hodling isn't as easy as it sounds. Yes, all you have to do to, in theory, hodl Bitcoin is just buy Bitcoin, take it into cold storage, and, go away for years and you're going to be super rich. Well, in the moment, it's not that simple. You're going to get through these dips. You're going to see some price pumping. This is the roller coaster. This is the volatility. This is essentially because of the fiat system reacting to Bitcoin. And of course, Bitcoin being a 24/7 global permissionless liquid market. So I think we're seeing a few things play out. Bitcoin is seemingly a leading indicator and currently reacting kind of like a tech stock. It sells off quickly before everything else does. And in response, it will also react faster than everything that we're seeing in the market. So I would say, if you are wondering whether you should buy the dip, obviously the answer is yes. Buy the dip, always buy the dip, continue to buy the dip, take that Bitcoin into cold storage. This is the way. When there's blood on the streets, you have to double down and get yourself some guacamole, because you'll be buying the dip, guys. Anyways, Luke, I saw you pulled up a chart. So, or you had it up. Maybe you took it up. Oh, no, it's still here. All right, Luke, I'm going to pass it to you, and then we'll pass it to Craig. What is this chart, and what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I mean, you were just mentioning chart boys, and I just pulled up the S&P 500 chart. Again, I am not a chart boy. I never draw funny lines on charts. This is, I never, ever talk about technical analysis. But what I think is really interesting is that the S&P 500 is simply retesting its previous all-time high that it set in 2022. So a lot of people saying, 1929, Great Depression, 85% crash incoming. I'm incredibly skeptical of that. I just believe that what we're seeing right now is the beginning phases of the money spigots being turned on. Every 4 years, global liquidity goes through a very predictable cycle. Right now, we actually haven't even seen global liquidity really increase over the past 2 years, and Bitcoin's pumped from $16,000 to $110,000. If you actually go back and look at each prior Bitcoin bull market, it's actually coincided with global liquidity increasing. So in 2013, from memory, global M2 rose by something like 26%. And in that 2013 era, Bitcoin rallied by something bonkers, like 100x, when it saw that big double pump bull run. And then in 2016, 4 years later, in this 2016-2017 era, global liquidity rose by something like 22%, and everybody is familiar with what happened with Bitcoin. We rallied by 20x. We went from 1K to 20K in 9 months in 2017. Then in the 2020 era, global liquidity rose by something like 40 to 50% during the, let's call it what it is, the 2020 hysteria printathon that went across the world. And Bitcoin rallied again by about 5 to 600%. We rallied from around 5 to 10K to 65K in the space of 6 months. And right now, what I think is really interesting is that Bitcoin's already rallied from $16,000 to a peak of $109,000. And what has global liquidity done? It's literally increased by about 3% in the past 12 to 18 months, while Bitcoin has already had a head start on the bull run. That's what I think we're watching. Global liquidity has not even started increasing. Again, in 2013, 26% expansion in M2 global liquidity, 22% in the 2017 bull run, around 40 to 50% in the 2020-2021 bull run. Right now, between 2024 and 2025, 3% global liquidity expansion. So I think when we really zoom out and have a look at the bigger picture, what we're seeing right now is Trump simply trying to get global liquidity expanding at a faster rate. That's all he's doing. He's raising tariffs because what does he want? Trump wants lower interest rates. Trump has always wanted lower interest rates, and the money printers too turn on, okay? This is all I believe Trump is doing right now. If I had to guess, I think we're going to reach some sort of a tariff stalemate in the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. The markets are down 21%. The probabilities of the Federal Reserve making 5 interest rate cuts this year are increasing by the day. So I believe Trump has nearly got his way with the Federal Reserve. And again, like we say, in bull markets, what happens? Bitcoin routinely sees these 20 to 30 to even 40% corrections that shakes out the weak hands. Again, we've rallied from 16K to 109K. Along the way, we have seen 21% correction. We saw a 35% correction in the summer doldrums of 2024, where we went sideways for what? 7 months. Everybody thought, oh, BlackRock's distributing their coins at the previous all-time high. It's over. Bitcoin's going back to 20K. Again, here on Simply Bitcoin, we weren't bearish. We were bullish that whole time. Again, it was just another 35% bull market correction. And I think we're seeing another one of these very typical 30 to 35% bull run corrections right now. We're about that off the all-time high, 31 to 32%. Let's remember what happened in 2017. Like we mentioned, Bitcoin rallied from 1K to 20K in 9 months. Most people thought, oh, if I was around in Bitcoin in 2017, I would have made a 20x. I would have been a genius. It would have been easy to hodl during that bull run of 9 months. But what most people forget is there were 6 corrections bigger than 29% in that very short 9-month window. Bull runs are very volatile. That's what I'm trying to hammer into you guys today. And I think the little 30-35% correction we're seeing right now, it's just the first of many bull market corrections that we're going to see over the next 6 to 9 months.
Okay, well, Luke, always stupidly bullish. The one thing, though, I think the one caveat here, Luke, is there is a little difference, and make it simple and short, because I know you like to ramble a little bit sometimes and get bullish here. But what we're seeing this cycle is a new level of general macro uncertainty. Now, it is going to be interesting whether Bitcoin cycles do play out like they did, and we do see a 30% correction, and it still rips. But in the face of all the uncertainty, maybe we are going to be trading more like a risk-on asset than a risk-off asset. What would be your take to that before we go over to Craig?
BlackRock disagrees.
There we go. All right. Fair enough. Okay, Craig, head of programming at the Bitcoin conference. We're super excited to be in Vegas. What's your takes on the general market uncertainty? As a longtime Bitcoiner, a lot of us are just kind of like, whatever, Bitcoin's going to do what it's going to do. But it does seem like we are entering a whole new paradigm in the Bitcoin space. So what's your take from your vantage point?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm definitely more on the ADIQ pleb side of things. So when it comes to macro, like as much as I try to learn and read about it, I'm no expert and no tariff expert. But I distinctly remember exactly where I was sitting in the March 2020 crash. And this to me doesn't feel like that yet. This is, the numbers are much bigger because we're talking, from 100,000 to 74,000. That's a big drop when it comes to dollar amount. But when you're looking at the percentage points, like Luke was mentioning, it's pretty typical for the bull runs. So I think, one thing that's different, I don't think this cycle is necessarily different. I think What's different is that things are maybe a little bit more nuanced. I don't think that we're just in a black and white scenario like we were in the previous cycles. I think before it was, Bitcoin good, altcoins are shit coins. I think we're seeing developments with layer twos and integration in other ways where things are just more nuanced. I think the same thing is true when it comes to tariffs. There's not just a clear consensus picture of this is a bull run, this is a bear market, like tariffs good, tariffs bad. I think things are a lot more nuanced now. And I think that actually makes for a much more interesting time to be a Bitcoiner, because you have to really dig through and understand and read and take in a lot more information, which can be overwhelming. But like, we're in this for the long haul. We're not looking at, even though we check the price, 15 times a day, we're, looking at what Trump is tweeting about or posting about on Truth Social, and markets are reacting in real time. We've got stocks trading like meme coins. I think as Bitcoiners, we just need to zoom out, just DCA, buy the dip, and we're in this for the long haul. So to me, these short-term price impacts are, they can hurt in the short term, but just zoom out, just buy the dip, DCA, and then you don't have to think about it too much, because by summer we could be seeing global liquidity rise and Bitcoin ripping again.
Yeah, totally. I think you said something that I also feel in very similar regard. Like 2020 was crazy. And I know there was a lot of hype over the weekend of like, oh, the world's ending from legacy media, corporate press. It doesn't feel like we are in that position right now. It seems like maybe there was some hype. There seems to be a lot of people that are trying to, FUD what Trump is doing. And I'm not the most pro-Trump person on this channel or in general, but I think what we're seeing is probably healthy for global markets. So I think you're spot on when you say, one, this isn't the 2020 crash all over again. And two, there is just general nuance going on in all of this economic stuff. It's very complicated stuff. And as Bitcoiners, this is why we love Bitcoin. It's so simple. You're just like, Bitcoin is the only data that actually matters out there. And as of now, we got some cheap sats. So this is the buying opportunity that you're going to look back on and be like, man, I wish I wasn't afraid and I stacked Bitcoin at 75K, 80K, 85K. It's all not going to matter once we actually break out into the six figures. But in the time being, we're all just kind of enjoying the roller coaster. This is when you earn your stripes, guys. If you're newer to Bitcoin, This is when you earn the stripes. And
does that mean that this is the bottom? Like 74K was the bottom? I don't know, but like if you buy now and you buy when we, hit the 200-week moving average at like 48K, like then you feel like a genius in 3 years. So I think like even if you're, scaling in, the most important part is staying solvent, making sure you have cash flow, liquidity, and some savings, because if the Bitcoin price does go down to 50K, 58K, I know the 58K gang is in here. So if it goes down there, you just want to make sure that you've got the money to pay the bills and you don't have to be selling your stack at those levels.
100%. Couldn't agree more. All right, guys, before we move on, make sure you smash the like button. Let's get to 150 likes in the next 10 minutes. Help us push this signal out there for people that might be concerned and afraid. They're panicking right now. They need to be listening to this content to stack some Bitcoin. All right, guys, moving forward, we want to give a shout out to Bitcoin Well, the best place to buy your Bitcoin. They have self-custody by default, which means you literally cannot get rug pulled. They never hold your coin. When you buy Bitcoin from Bitcoin Well, it goes directly to your wallets, directly to your cold storage. This is the safest way to buy Bitcoin. They can never rug pull. They don't even hold your Bitcoin. You buy it, it hits your wallet directly. Now, for you guys sitting on the sidelines, if you're sitting in cash right now and you're thinking, hey, maybe these guys on YouTube are making some points here. Maybe I shouldn't be afraid. And maybe I should double down and stack a huge chunk of Bitcoin right now. Make sure you get in touch with the Bitcoin Well Infinite team. You can buy $50,000 of Bitcoin in a single chunk. This is the OTC desk. This is how you can get big buys into Bitcoin. If you're not trying to do a DCA and you want to capitulate recapitulate your fiat instantly, this is where you go, the Bitcoin Well Infinite team. All right, guys, on that note, we have a lot of news to cover. So I am going to cover the clip of Scott Bessent. He just did an interview with Tucker Carlson explaining what is going on in the markets. And then we got some, if I have enough time, we got some funny news coming out of CNBC and some interesting news in regards to the global Bitcoin adoption race that we are seeing ever since Trump announced the strategic Bitcoin reserve. And of course, in the culture with Craig, we're going to talk about the biggest Bitcoin conference in the world in Vegas. We're going to be there, guys. On that note, let's get into the show.
I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stamp Seed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today.
Of course, guys, make sure you scan the QR code over there. Get 15% off your Stamp Seed kit. Make sure you are smashing your seed into a seed plate with titanium. Scan the QR code and you get 15% off. All right, guys, let's get into the numbers. We are over here on Clark Moody's dashboard, and the current Bitcoin price is $77,380 per Bitcoin. The sats per dollar, aka how much Bitcoin you can buy for a single dollar, aka how much a dollar is worth in Bitcoin, is currently at 1,293 sats per dollar. Absolute discount, absolute bargain going on right now. The current block height is currently 891,367, and the market cap of Bitcoin and fiat, we're at $1.5 trillion. Remember when we were holding on strong at 2 trillion? Well, this is the buying opportunity. All right, Bitcoin versus gold market cap currently at 7.22%. A lot of room to run in the hard money game. The world has not woken up to Bitcoin as the superior money, as the superior store of value, as the pristine collateral that it is, but they're getting there. They're getting there. The total percentage of Bitcoin that will ever be issued is currently at 94.51%, roughly about 19.84 million Bitcoin in circulation. And of course, the realized monetary inflation taking fiat currencies to school is currently at 0.87%. When we started covering this, we were at 3.9 something percent. Crazy, just crazy stuff going on, and no one understands what's actually happening. All right, so as I told you, there was a great interview by Tucker Carlson with Scott Bessent, of course, Secretary of Treasury for the U.S. Highly recommend you watch the whole thing. He did an incredible job, extremely intelligent. But this clip made its round on Twitter, and of course, I think this is the clip that we should be sharing more to our friends and family, because I didn't even know these numbers were what they were. It's absolutely insane when you understand what Scott Bessent is saying in relation to the wealth disparity. It's really insane what's going on with these numbers. And then this is why a lot of people have been saying that what Trump's doing, basically nuking the stock market, he doesn't really care, because many of the people that voted for him probably aren't in the stock market, and Scott Bessent lays this out perfectly. So let's watch this and then we will chat about it.
The distribution of equities, to the food bank to top up. So that's not a great America.
Absolutely insane. Guys, this is why we push Bitcoin so hard. This is why we say that Bitcoin is for anyone, that Bitcoin is the people's money. As as you heard there, 50% of the population in the United States is in debt, doesn't own the stock market. They are obviously feeling the pain right now. In regards to inflation, we all know the root cause of inflation. 2020, they printed in obscene amounts of money. And of course, we all know that there's a lot of rumors going on that quantitative easing, or essentially money printer going burr, is going to come back on the table, which means that bottom 50% of the population is going to get hurt even more. Now, it's interesting when you kind of put these numbers out. What was it? Top 10% owned 80% of the stock market. The bottom 40% owned the last 20%. And then the rest of the population of the United States has nothing. We could be somewhat favorable or less cynical and say that they're saving in cash, but we all know the deal with cash. You are by design losing 2% of your purchasing power per year. So this is why we are Bitcoiners. This is why the 21 million hard cap is so important, because you can store your savings in something that cannot be debased. Or if you don't understand how the markets work, how financialization works, and you are absolutely getting decimated. And, you know, as much as we are leaning a little more right lately, you do see and you can understand why the left and the progressives are so big on this idea of the wealth disparity. There is a wealth disparity problem going on in the world. The majority of people own nothing. And this is why we always say the best thing for you guys to own is Bitcoin. Store your wealth in Bitcoin, store it long-term in Bitcoin. Make sure you custody that Bitcoin. You take it off the exchanges. This is how you succeed in this new paradigm that we are entering, or rather have already entered. Or as many people are saying, this is how you thrive through the fourth turning. It is happening, and it's very interesting that we're seeing, you know, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent essentially telegraph a lot of the stuff that's going on right now. And if you compare that to what Janet Yellen was doing, it's a totally different view going on right now. So love or hate the Trump administration, they have been very pro Bitcoin for us. I think we're going to continue to see this. And the fact that we have Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, saying, hey, Bitcoin is a new store of value. And also, hey, guys, like, most people are poor and you're getting wrecked and you're in debt. I think we are entering a new time, and this is why I think it's very important for you guys to spread that message to people. Hey, if you aren't part of the top 10%, you are being left behind. And the only way to achieve the American dream in the modern world, in the modern times we live in the internet age that you live in, is you have to hold some Bitcoin. Doesn't matter how much you hold, you just have to get off zero. Now, I know at this point you guys are probably a broken record to your friends and family, but you need to continue to stress this idea. Find new ways to get them excited about what's going on. I don't think it's as much doom and gloom as we all think it is, or rather see in the legacy media. I think we might be entering the bright orange future we talk about constantly on Simply Bitcoin. So I'm going to pass it over to Craig. Craig, what's your thoughts on seeing Scott Bessent lay out these numbers? And of course, you can kind of reel it into their more pro-Bitcoin stance recently.
I thought the stats were fascinating. And actually, my family took a European vacation last year. So I thought that was especially drove the point home a little bit. Usually what I tell my friends who know that I'm into Bitcoin and they're finally curious about like taking the plunge is I tell them that they should set up a DCA with someone where an amount that you don't notice it leaving your bank account. So I usually equate it to like a Spotify or Netflix subscription. You don't notice that leaving your bank account, but that number is different for everybody. So maybe it's $20 a week, maybe it's $20 a month, maybe it's $10 a month, but whatever it is, get off zero. And then that way you're kind of forced, you got skin in the game, you're forced to focus at least a little bit on what's happening in the Bitcoin space. And I've seen some really interesting comments about people controlling Bitcoin. Clearly, you haven't done the research, because when you self-custody your Bitcoin, you have complete control over it. Bitcoin censorship resistant. You can send your money elsewhere. If there's capital controls in your country, if there are tariffs, which there aren't on Bitcoin, you can send that money anywhere in the world. You can take that money with you anywhere in the world and access it. So to me, that actually does fit in a lot with the talking points on the left, with the values of people on the left. You have progressive ideals of lifting people up. I used to be a teacher. I did not make a lot of money, but I started saving in Bitcoin. And with that, I did not get poor slowly. I didn't get rich quick, but over time with saving, I was able to take the plunge, jump into a completely new career, which is in Bitcoin, because I feel so strongly about it. But that financial freedom that I had just from having a savings that wasn't debased cannot be comparable. There's nothing that compares to that. You won't get that with stocks. Even if Bitcoin behaves currently like a risk asset, behaves like stocks, you don't have that same financial freedom that you do when you hold Bitcoin. And so for me, I just would recommend anybody, DCA, don't buy a giant chunk, just buy 10 bucks a week, 10 bucks a month even, but just get off zero. And then that way you don't have to be phased by these big market changes.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Craig. And I think you said something very interesting. And this is kind of a trend that we were seeing pop up on Bitcoin Twitter, is this idea that Bitcoin is bipartisan. It's not just for the right, you know, it doesn't exclude the left. It is the people's money. And I find it very interesting that Scott Bessent is coming out here, especially when you see a lot of the progressives on the left saying like, oh, the Trump administration's for the oligarchs, it's for the billionaires. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of empathy come out of Scott Bessent in regards to the working class, so working class people, you know, what is going on with them. And I do find it very interesting that it's not just rhetoric. I know what we're seeing right now with the stock market. People are like, oh, he's making everyone poorer. But if you go into the numbers, like most people don't own the stock market. And I think what we're seeing is essentially, at least in the US and maybe in global markets at large, we're seeing that we're finally getting that hangover. And, you know, like you have to go through the pain before you can reset and actually build on top of something solid. And we've been in a, you know, a very, very high time in finance. You know, it's been a free market system free money system for a long time. And now we're seeing maybe we are getting the much needed economic reset. So I find it very interesting that it's kind of hard to look at what Scott Bessent's been saying and be like, oh, they don't care about people. I think maybe, and I hate to be the trust the plan 5D chess guy, but it does seem like they are doing what is needed to do to reset the economy so that the working class people, the bottom 50%, don't get left behind like it's been doing historically. So I totally agree with you on that front. Now, Luke, what's your thoughts on here, Scott Bessent? I know you're not an American here, but, you know, as a more neutral global macro Bitcoiner guy, what's your thoughts hearing that clip?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's coming to the realization that Bitcoin is the solution to the biggest problem in the world. Like, we're living through the final fiat fleecing. This is, I believe, our overlord's very last chance to fleece the population with a fiat transition. I think once this global fiat experiment blows up, there is no more fleecings that can be had by the overlords, the kings, the emperors, the elites, the governments, the central bankers. I think for the first time in 7,000 years, we're transitioning to a monetary system where there shall be no fleecings. You cannot strip wealth from the lower and the middle class. And I just think that now we have the Treasury Secretary calling Bitcoin digital gold and making some other very interesting statements. I think it's just another signal that we are very close to a once-in-a-species transition happening and occurring. And it looks as if the largest nation state in the world is really setting themselves up to, you know, in the words of Donald Trump, as he says, become the Bitcoin superpower of the world. And I think America is going to, you know, drive this transition. I think they're accelerating this transition from fiat to Bitcoin. And I think every time the Treasury Secretary says what he just did say about Bitcoin, I think it's just another signal that we are getting closer and closer to the event horizon. And I think not enough people are really paying attention to just how much the news has changed in the past 2 years. If you had to ask me, let's say 3 years ago, that we'd have, you know, the 45th and the 47th president of America saying, yeah, you know what, we're going to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve, we're going to stand up a sovereign wealth fund, and we want to be the Bitcoin superpower of the world. We want every Bitcoin to be mined, made, and minted in America. That's the words of the bloody president of America. If you had to tell me 3 years ago, that's what we'd be hearing in early 2025, I would have called you nuts. And if you had to ask me for a price prediction of what the price would be under these circumstances, I'd say we'd be in the millions of dollars per coin. So again, this is your opportunity at home. Bitcoin's at what? $75,000, $80,000 right now. I think now is an incredible buying opportunity. And I don't think we have that much time left before we do really reach this event horizon. And Bitcoin does things that I believe is going to melt the faces of even the most hardened Bitcoin.
Let's go. All right. I endorse this. I like when Luke comes on and we get some sprinkle of hopium in all the doomsday preparation that we're seeing. All right, guys, we still are halfway through the show. We got a jam-packed rest of the show, but I got to move up the likes here, guys. Let's get to 200 likes before the show ends. Make sure you help us push this content out to the rest of YouTube. On that note, let's get to the news.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Bitcoin security matters, but managing private keys can sometimes be complicated, especially multisig. What if you can secure your Bitcoin without worrying about losing a seed phrase or giving up custody? With Casa, you can completely control your Bitcoin with multi-key security, so even if one key is lost or stolen, your funds stay safe. No single point of failure, no stress. That's what I absolutely love about these guys. They make taking Bitcoin into self-custody incredibly easy with their best in industry user experience through their app. I've been personally recommending Casa for years now to my friends and family because they will get all the benefits of multi-key self-custody security without the hassle of having to learn complicated UI. And if you're thinking of one day passing on your Bitcoin to the next generation, their inheritance plan has you covered. Also, if you're a business looking to add Bitcoin to your treasury, do it the secure way with Casa for Business. To get started, go to casa.io today and get 5% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium with promo code SIMPLY. Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledn has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally have not only an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledn is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to hodl while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you. Check out ledn.io today.
Boys and girls and boys, we are back. Okay, let me pull this up. So first of all, guys, hold your tomatoes here. I know you guys are going to be throwing some tomatoes real quick, but this is an interesting development, okay? So here we go. We have this news coming across our desk this morning that Pakistan appointed Binance founder CZ as their strategic quote-unquote crypto advisor. Of course, we said comment your thoughts below because you know what the Bitcoin maxis are going to say. But we are seeing that, hey, love it or not, love or hate the man, be pro-orange man, anti-orange man, you cannot deny that the impact he's had on the global conversation around Bitcoin has made an impact. Of course, since we came out in the US and said we're going to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve, there is waves all around the world that people are looking into this. We're hearing rumors of the Czech Republic. Of course, we're hearing rumors from China that they're going to flip their stance on it. And you're starting to see more and more people start to announce what we all know is going down. The global game theory is playing out. So I do have a little article here to kind of explain what this quote unquote crypto council strategic advisor means. And of course, CZ, head of Binance, the biggest shitcoin casino in the world. But, I'd argue he is actually a Bitcoiner. Maybe publicly, he's the biggest shitcoiner, but privately, we honor the game. They want your Bitcoin. So we go, Pakistan is stepping into a new era of digital finance with a major announcement. CZ, the founder of Binance, has officially joined the Pakistan Crypto Council, the PCC, as a strategic advisor. His expertise will shape Pakistan's crypto future, guiding the country in creating strong regulations, improving digital infrastructure, and increasing gross blockchain adoption. Of course, it's, showing that the Pakistan has strong interest in gross Web3, and its goal to grow in crypto. Now, this came after CZ visited Pakistan, where he met with top government officials, including the finance minister, Senator Muhammad Aurangzeb, the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan, and the governor of the State Bank of Pakistan. CZ also held a private meeting with the prime minister and deputy prime minister, showing the government's strong interest in crypto, or, Bitcoin. And during the meeting, Finance Minister Aurangzeb stated that Pakistan is ready to adopt digital finance and blockchain. It's a lot of buzzwords. We're seeing a lot of buzzwords here. But anyways, the strategic advisor, CZ, will focus on helping the government develop clear and compliant crypto policies, assisting in building a strong digital finance network, and promoting grows blockchain knowledge to increase adoption and innovation. Hey, they can't all be perfect, but we know the game theory is playing out. Now, of course, going back to BitcoinTreasuries.com, you can see who's still leading the race. Obviously, it's still the U.S., though. We were supposed to, and maybe we'll see something else later today. In the first 100 days, remember, in the executive order of the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, Trump announced that we will get an audit of the U.S.'s holdings. So maybe by the end of the day, we'll see this. Maybe something will come out later this week. But this weekend was the deadline. I believe it was the 5th. That was the deadline. Maybe it was the 6th. That was the deadline for that audit of the U.S.'s Bitcoin holdings. But of course, as of now, on paper, at least, the U.S. is still leading the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve race here. They hold the most Bitcoin, closely followed by China. And then everyone just drops off after that. UK, Ukraine, Bhutan, El Salvador, Finland, Georgia, Germany. So it seems like Pakistan is also trying to, get into this race. Again, whether you love the man or not, you can't deny that ever since Trump came out as pro-Bitcoin, announcing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, it's making the waves everywhere. Now people have to very seriously take Bitcoin into consideration. It's no more just a very easily just skirt off the table and say, oh, I don't care about that Ponzi, this internet nerd money. It's a very real strategic asset here. Obviously, as we cover here constantly, it's the best performing asset the last 15 years. It's permissionless, censorship resistant, hard capped at 21 million. All of these things are why we constantly say that every country, every individual, every corporation will have to, at the very least, consider a Bitcoin strategy. And now we're saying that it's happening. Yes, it's happening slower. Yes, it's happening in the face of a lot of economic uncertainty, but these conversations are happening, and I think they're only going to accelerate. So, Luke, you've been on this beat for a while, so I'm going to pass it off to you first. What's your thoughts of Pakistan announcing CZ as its strategic crypto advisor? Is this big news? Is this a nothing burger? What's your thoughts on this?
So I think maybe Pakistan is copying another country in that kind of Asian region. So a lot of people didn't pay attention to this announcement, but Metaplanet, the best performing stock in all of Asia for 2024, obviously the company with a Bitcoin treasury strategy, they recently appointed Eric Trump as like a strategic advisor to their board. So I think that's really interesting. That's really fascinating. Maybe other nation states are watching what's happening in the public corporation domain when it comes to strategic Bitcoin reserves and treasuries. And maybe they're saying, look, we need a global strategy. I'm really not surprised about Pakistan. They've obviously had an inflation crisis for a long time now. Pakistan has some of the highest levels of US, Tether adoption. I nearly forgot Tether's name there for a moment. So like behind Argentina and Turkey, Pakistan is one of the countries with the highest amount of US dollar stablecoin adoption. So again, this is old news. This has been news for the past 2 to 3 years. So I think, again, like what happened in El Salvador, bottoms up grassroots adoption spurs changes at the higher levels. A lot of people forget that there was a Bitcoin Beach project started in El Salvador in like 2019. This was 2 years before Mr. Bukele mentioned the words, Bitcoin legal tender. Okay, I do believe that nations will be forced to adopt Bitcoin, and a lot of this adoption will be forced from grassroots adoption. So I'm not surprised about what is happening in Pakistan. I do think that Pakistan is like a big country. They have hundreds of millions of people. I don't know the exact figure, but they're a lot bigger than a country like El Salvador with 6 million people, or the Czech Republic with an 11 million person population. Pakistan does have hundreds of millions of people within their borders. So I think if the nation state, is recognizing that they need some sort of a Bitcoin slash digital assets strategy. I think that's more of a pro than a con. Again, CZ, yes, he's a billionaire, but we all know CZ is a poo coiner. I'm going to be very careful with what we all know that. So again, there could be better people to be appointed as the, as the helper, so to say. And I think a lot of people said the same thing about Donald Trump appointing David Sachs. They were skeptical. They were saying, hang on a minute, this guy, is he a hardcore Bitcoin maxi? A lot of people were skeptical, myself included, but so far David Sachs has pulled through despite him not being a hardcore Bitcoin maximalist in the past. Hopefully CZ can do a similar thing in Pakistan.
Yeah, actually, that's a great take, Luke. Because I was definitely very critical of David Sachs as the crypto czar. But as we saw with the different recent announcements around the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve and the Sovereign Wealth Fund, he was actually very favorable, and I would say very positive for the Bitcoin space. And, I had to take that humble pie when I was reading it. I was like, David Sachs, he's very involved in Solana. He sold all his holdings, and then he delivered with like a very pro Bitcoin strategic reserve. And so, yeah, maybe you're right on that one. As much as we can give CZ crap for being a part of Binance, we have some people that like CZ did nothing wrong. A lot of us are like, it's a shitcoin casino. At least if he just framed it as a shitcoin casino, we'd be okay with it. But yeah, maybe it will be a very favorable outcome for the Pakistani people here in regards to a pro Bitcoin strategic reserve versus, some kind of shitcoin fun thing going on here. Anyways, Craig, what's your thoughts on CZ leading the crypto strategic reserve in Pakistan, or maybe just general thoughts on Trump and the dominoes of global Bitcoin adoption and strategic Bitcoin reserves?
Yeah, I think I'm going to take it a little bit different direction to start, which is that with all of these nation states starting to talk about Bitcoin, appointing advisors, trying to figure out how the game theory behind adopting Bitcoin, I think that for me, Bitcoin is cypherpunk money. It is the people's money. It is money that we have an opportunity, a once in a lifetime opportunity for freedom and privacy. And right now, the developments around Bitcoin, there's a lot happening, and the focus is mostly on nation states adopting it. So I just think that that's an important thing to remember and to learn about, and to just, especially when the price is dumping, to look into, because when the price is dumping, focus on the builders, see what's happening in the space, because there's a lot of development happening. When it comes to nation states adopting Bitcoin, I think once the people have realized that this is the people's money, we've started to see corporations catch on as well. So that started with MicroStrategy. Now we've got Metaplanet. And I think, if I recall correctly, Metaplanet was actually the best performing stock in the world last year, not just in Asia. So I might be misremembering that.
That's what happened.
Yeah, so now we started to see Hong Kong Holdings, which is a publicly traded company in Hong Kong, also adopt the Bitcoin treasury strategy. There's numerous ones in the States. There's I think it's called the Blockchain Group out of England or France maybe, and also now we've seen Jet King, which is a very small company comparative to MicroStrategy and Metaplanet, but this is the first company out of India to adopt this Bitcoin treasury strategy. So then we are seeing all these companies catching on, and the next logical step is for nation states to be catching on. So with Trump, love him or hate him, talking about Bitcoin, opening the Pandora's box of nation state game theory here, saying that it probably makes sense for the US to catch on earlier than other countries. All of these other countries realize that they have to catch up. They have to do their due diligence to see about what this asset is like. They have to learn about it and put in the work, because we're in a different stage than we were when gold was the primary settlement asset. The dollar has been the primary settlement asset, the world reserve currency. We might be seeing that change actively starting like last week. So with Bitcoin being the next logical currency that can settle in 10 minutes anywhere in the world, that's neutral, that's not controlled by any one government, I think that it makes perfect sense for all these nations to be catching on and thinking, oh gosh, we better appoint some advisors here. CZ, also, love him or hate him, he runs the most used exchange everywhere in the world. So Binance is massive. Users in other countries might not be as maximalists as a lot of the Bitcoiners are in the States. They're going to have to touch the stove to learn the hard way if their nation state adopts the Solana reserve. I think going back to David Sachs, similarly, he also has pushed Solana on his podcast, but in a show of great ethics has sold all of his positions in Bitcoin, Solana, whatever other cryptos he had, he sold them. So I think that at least now he has a less biased, if not unbiased, view of this industry. And I would be incredibly surprised if at the end of the assessment period where they're determining which assets make sense for the strategic Bitcoin reserve or strategic digital asset reserve, if they end up saying more than just Bitcoin makes sense. I think they're going to do their due diligence and come to the conclusion that Bitcoin makes sense, and that's it. And I hope for Pakistan's sake that they come to that same conclusion and don't adopt BNB just because their advisor is the founder of that chain.
Love it. Great take. Great balanced take. All right, guys. All right, I got a couple minutes here because this is just funny, and then we'll get into the culture to wrap up the show. But let me just read this headline for you. I'm not even going to dive too deep into this. We just got some new FUD coming out of CNBC, and I find it hilarious. I want to throw this in the news real quick. So here we go, an article from CNBC, and it's under the cyber report, and it's called "For Bitcoin Bulls Who Self-Custody Crypto, the Global Risks Are Growing." Oh no, the FUD is out, guys. It's getting crazy, and this is the only point I want to cover here because it's actually kind of hilarious. So some cryptocurrency investors prefer to custody their own digital assets like Bitcoin with private keys stored on hardware wallets in cold storage versus using crypto brokerage firm hot wallets and other third-party digital custody options. Wars and extreme weather. You heard that right. Wars and extreme weathers. Weather examples in recent years from Israel to California show that keeping crypto in the personal version of a bank vault has its own set of unique and evolving risks, guys. I just wanted to bring this up. I don't know if we want to chat about this, but I just find it easy. Guys, don't custody your Bitcoin because checks notes the weather. Do not self-custody your Bitcoin because of the weather. You should probably just trust the firms, that have blown up everything in the world in a metaphorical sense in the markets and since forever, 2008. What we're seeing now, 2020. Trust those firms, guys. Do not read the white paper and eliminate the need for middlemen, third custody solutions. Don't custody your Bitcoin because of the weather. I just wanted to sneak that one in there. So I don't know if you guys want to chat on this real quick. We seem like they're running out of FUD lines. They're at the bottom of the barrel of FUD. And now we got don't custody your Bitcoin because of the weather. This is how much we're winning. It's hilarious. And we probably don't even need to chat too much about this. I just wanted to sneak that one in there. But Craig, Luke, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'll say something real quick. So I run the programming for the Bitcoin conference, and our events are all over the world, including in Amsterdam. And about 2 weeks before our Amsterdam event, my town was really severely impacted by Hurricane Helene. And I know many people who lost everything, but I saw some crazy videos of like a house being like washed away by a rising river. And if you had single sig seed storage and you only had the copy at your house, then you definitely would have lost all your Bitcoin. So that is one point. But there are multi-signature solutions. There are collaborative custody solutions which use multi-sig to help prevent any single point of failure. So that's the only thing I'll say about that, but it is definitely pretty hilarious of the framing of that article.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not like Bitcoiners don't say this constantly. It's like there's trade-offs of everything, guys. There's no 1-800 number to call to be like, oops, I lost my Bitcoin. If you are becoming your own bank, then of course you also have to consider the security of your own money. There is no one to call if you mess up. This is what we constantly say about Bitcoin. With number go up comes responsibility go up, and with responsibility go up comes freedom go up. It's all like it's not like we haven't been saying this forever in regards to Bitcoin. So couldn't agree more, Craig. But Luke, do you want to chime in before we get into the culture? What's your thoughts on hearing this headline?
Yes, I mean, I love the website Bitcoin Obituaries. I think the mainstream media has pronounced Bitcoin is dead 500 times now. And now the narrative has completely shifted to, okay, Bitcoin's cool. Bitcoin's worth self-custodying. Bitcoin is digital gold, but just be careful holding your own coins because of the bad weather. Trust BlackRock. Trust another ETF, or trust us, Daddy, Uncle Sam, the government. We will hold your Bitcoin securely. I think this is how the narrative is kind of shifting. And even in the EU, like you say, Opti, we can really see they are kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel, because in the EU, the narrative has now shifted. I believe it was on Christmas Eve, the European Central Bank published a report where they said, okay, Bitcoin is probably going to go to $10 million a coin. Yes, we believe in Bitcoin, but it's going to create societal impoverishment because the older holders who have been holding Bitcoin for longer are impoverishing the new adopters. So the ECB tried to create this framing of anyone who wanting to adopt Bitcoin, don't do it because you're impoverishing yourself by adopting Bitcoin, okay? You are impoverishing yourself and enriching the early Bitcoin holders. I think right now we're getting to the point in the story where they really are, like to your point, Opti, really scraping the bottom of the barrel to create this Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's absolutely hilarious. I just want to bring up bring a little humor to the show and just laugh at the corporate press, because it's not like we haven't been saying this forever in Bitcoin Twitter and on Simply Bitcoin. But hey, guys, don't custody your Bitcoin because of the weather. This is where we are in the story. It's because Bitcoin's winning so hard. Everyone's talking about a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Every corporation is probably having these meetings about a strategic Bitcoin holding. And we have CNBC coming out and saying, hey, don't custody your Bitcoin because of the weather. This is where we are. They're really not bringing their best anymore. The fun used to be like actually fun and scary. You used to be like, oh wow, this actually makes me reconsider my Bitcoin strategy. And now you're like, the weather, bro. Like, I get it. When we saw the fires in California, we brought on James from StampSeed to talk about how you could have protected your Bitcoin. We constantly are thinking and keeping our head on a swivel of what's the best way to protect your Bitcoin. And yet this is where we are in the story. So I don't know, guys, maybe we are winning a lot harder than we think we are. On that note, guys, we're going to get into the culture. We're going to talk about Bitcoin Conference Las Vegas 2025. It is coming up. You guys want to get there. A lot of interesting stuff happening. So we got Craig programming the conference with us today. We'll chat about that right after the break.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's positioned to quadruple their global footprint in 2025. And as the first with an AI strategy, HIVE continues to make moves in sustainable, high-performance computing. They consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, and now they're headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're changing the game. You can catch the latest buzz by following them at HIVE Digital Tech, or check out their website at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, CoinKite. If you take your Bitcoin security seriously, you'll need the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market to take self-custody. That's where Cold Card comes in. The Cold Card Q is the most advanced Bitcoin signing device ever made. It's got a full keyboard, larger screen, and NFC support, making air-gap signing easier than ever. It's built for power users who want the ultimate security without sacrificing usability. And if you're looking for a battle-tested, uncompromising cold storage, the Cold Card MK4 is your go-to with PSPT signing, an industrial-grade secure element, and USB-C. It's the perfect blend of security and convenience. Both devices are, of course, 100% Bitcoin only, open source, and built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Secure your Bitcoin the right way with the Cold Card Q and the MK4. Head over to coldcard.com today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the store.
All right, guys. I would usually model this for you guys, but we were talking about this at the end of last week, and we got a really good video here. So I want to show you guys this, and then we'll get into the culture. Check this out. It's absolutely incredible.
Once the transaction is finalized, the NFC screen will pop up, signaling that the device is ready to be tapped and the transaction is ready to be broadcasted. Once the link shows up on your phone, make sure to click it, and it will bring you to mempool.space. Your transaction is officially broadcasted and waiting in queue.
It's so cool.
And that's it.
Sorry, guys. I just thought this was so cool. MBK was talking about this for us last week. And when you see it happen, it's like, wow, this might actually be the easiest, simplest way, best way to use your Bitcoin. All right. Anyways, I just wanted to show you guys that real quick. Make sure you scan the QR code. Use Simply to get 5% off your purchases over at CoinKai. Okay, Craig, let's talk about Bitcoin Las Vegas, man. We are super excited to get out there this year. It's going to be great. Always have a blast at the Bitcoin conference. This year, I asked you before the show, maybe we start there. It seems like every year the Bitcoin conference gets bigger and bigger and bigger. This year, of course, it's going to be May 27th through the 29th. In Vegas, and you guys can see here, embrace the game theory. And I was asking Craig earlier, I'm like, is this one going to be bigger than every year previously? And considering today's kind of one of those strange market days, I thought your answer was interesting. You're like, I really don't know. It should be, but who knows where the price is going to be in a month or so.
If it dips, I mean, people might be stacking sats instead of buying conference tickets. But I will say that probably is going to be a mistake because the event's going to be incredible. I mean, we're talking bigger production, bigger teams of artists who are handling the production. Our team is growing and it is incredible. And the work that goes into this event, I wish more people could see what happens on the back end, because the conference team is just the best team in the business. I know there's a ton of Bitcoin conferences that are happening now, but there's only one where you're going to get the caliber of speaker and the various expertise of all of these different areas of Bitcoin. So that means mining. We've got a mining stage that has 3 days of content. It means open source development. We've got a stage where it's just exclusively focused on all the technical things that are happening. We've got our main stage, which has tons of incredible speakers. And I know that like politics last year was a big focus. It was an election year, but also this year we're doing an event called Coding Country, which is going to have a ton of incredible speakers, which I'm not going to ruin the surprise because a lot of those are going to be announced in the coming days. But think the biggest possible speakers in the country. So when it comes to just various content that we have, it's like every possible thing that you can imagine. And that also includes like enterprise financialization content. Bitcoin has entered into a stage that is brand new, where you've got the likes of BlackRock, Fidelity, Cantor Fitzgerald, all of these massive institutions that are now starting to adopt Bitcoin. We have a stage completely dedicated to this type of content. So when it comes to all the different areas that you could learn about when it comes to Bitcoin, our event meets them all. So I really highly recommend going to this event. This event in 2021, I did not go to, but I had major FOMO, and seeing that and now being on the other side of things, I really get a window into all the types of things that happen at this event. Companies come here, they do deals in the meeting rooms. There are people that come here that raise funding for their projects, people that come here get jobs in the industry. This is the place to be if you want anything to do with the Bitcoin industry. Even if you want to just learn, there's no better place to do that than in person. Yeah, you can watch videos where people tell you how to use the cold card, but actually going and talking to the people that create the cold card is a whole nother story. And that is like with any other product that is in the space. So Stamp Seed, I saw the people asking about that in the chat. Come see these people, talk to them in person, come participate in a workshop and actually get your hands dirty learning these skills, because our event is the perfect place to do that.
Yeah, totally. And on your point of getting a job, guys, we say this all the time when we bring on Bitcoin Magazine, but if it wasn't for Bitcoin conference 2022 in Miami, Nico would have never asked me to join Simply Bitcoin. I went there and he was like, yo, I want you to come work with me. And you know, the rest is history. Here we are. I literally got a job at the Bitcoin Magazine conference in 2022. The conferences are the best place to go, guys. Yes, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm too poor, I need to stack some sats. Why aren't these tickets free? Guys, you don't understand what it takes to put on a conference of this magnitude. And you got to remember that putting on a Bitcoin conference like maybe what we saw in 2021, that was the biggest one, right? 2021 was the big Miami one. I forget the
last
date.
year.
Last year.
Well, 2022 was big, and then last year was our biggest one.
Absolutely incredible. But guys, point remains the same. You don't understand the impact of having the biggest conference in the world. There's so many eyes that get pushed towards Bitcoin, the Bitcoin community, the price, everything going on, the development, besides having something like the Bitcoin conference. Now, Craig, you said something interesting, and I saw this came out on your Twitter. Well, rather the Bitcoin Magazine Twitter. So let me pull this up. I know you said just right now that politics was a huge theme on last year's. Obviously, if you went, you remember like the Secret Service was there and it was hectic. I don't even think you guys were ready for how hectic it was going to be. So this year, I'm guessing it's going to be, less hectic, but we just saw on your guys' Twitter, Beau is going to be speaking at the Bitcoin conference. So I know you can't really, tease too much here, but you did mention that politics is going to be a huge theme and some of the biggest people are going to be there. So, man, congratulations. And I'm sure some bigger names are going to be announced very short. So I think this is huge. Maybe Beau will say something incredible like we've heard at previous Bitcoin conferences. But this is shaping up to be a really, really fun week in Vegas, and I'm super excited.
Yeah, I think like when it comes to the big name speakers, like you had mentioned earlier in the show, love them or hate them, this administration is very friendly to Bitcoin. And it's not just lip service necessarily. This is people that they own Bitcoin. They actually have a vested interest in making Bitcoin be successful. And I think that is a difference this year than perhaps in previous years. And so when it comes to these big name speakers, I mean, I wish I could tell you the pipeline because it's really exciting. And there's nothing like actually being around other Bitcoiners. So when you come to our event, you get to actually spend time with tens of thousands of people that are also interested in the same topic. And that's not just Bitcoin. That is sovereignty, that's freedom, that is freedom of speech, that is living a better lifestyle. Bitcoin really changes your perspective on how you view the world, and being around other people who have gone through that same journey, who are going through that same journey, just cannot be compared. And so I can't recommend enough. Come check out the event. It's going to be awesome. Vegas is a wild town. Come check it out and see what it's like.
Let's go. Well, Luke, I'm going to let you chime in here. Not to dox you too much, but I think your audience knows, where you can and can't travel at this point. But you did say you will be going to a different Bitcoin conference. So maybe you want to chime in here, and then I will give Craig the last, couple of minutes to wrap up, maybe pepper in some, sneak peeks here, or just a simple TLDR elevator pitch. So Luke, chime in here real quick, and then we'll wrap up today's show.
Yeah, so I was supposed to be going to the Bitcoin conference last year. And then about 12 hours before I was supposed to get on that plane, I got an email saying, sorry, Luke, but your US ESTA has had a change in status. So anyway, I tried to quote unquote sneak onto the plane to get to America, despite me not having this visa. I even made a video out of it just for I was at the Colombian airport. I got to the front desk. They didn't let me in, long story short. So I am actually going to a US embassy in Lima this next week, I believe, to try to sort out that visa situation so I can make the Vegas Bitcoin conference, because it's going to be huge. So I really do want to get there. But irrespective of what happens with my US visa, I will be going to BTC Asia in Hong Kong. I'll be in Asia for about 3 months. Might do a little bit of a round trip, go check out Japan, Hong Kong, Thailand, and all of the Bitcoin things happening in Asia. So if you are in the region, hit me up. I'm going to be at what I think is probably going to be the biggest Bitcoin conference in all of Asia. So really looking forward to that. And kudos to Craig for organizing all of these massive global conferences, whether they're in America, Europe, Asia, or even the Middle East. I think the Bitcoin conference is everywhere. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting on down to BTC Asia in August. If I cannot cross the waters to get to Vegas here in a few weeks'
Yeah,
time.
so guys, maybe you'll see Luke in the flesh as well, but maybe don't hold your breath on that one either. So Craig, thank you so much for coming. Let's do maybe one more sneak peek, whatever you can, TLDR, short elevator pitch for people on the fence, wondering whether they should go, and then we'll wrap up today's show.
Yeah, totally. So like Luke mentioned, we have events on every continent pretty much. So if you can't make it to this one, definitely think about coming to Hong Kong. Hong Kong's a really cool city. That's going to be a really fun one. That is in August, end of August. We also just announced our event in Abu Dhabi. That's happening December 8th and 9th. Come check us out there. Amsterdam dates are still being determined, but we've got events happening all over the world. Vegas is going to be the biggest and the best of all of them, though. So if you can make it to the US, you don't have any visa issues, come to that event because that one's going to be the most fun. It is the biggest event that we put on. It is our baby. It is our flagship one, and it's going to be awesome. So highly recommend coming to that one if you can. But really, they're all amazing.
Let's go. Actually, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I know I told you that I wasn't going to put you on the spot, but will we get the Vegas Eye to put some Bitcoin, logos or some advertisement on there? I really want to see some Bitcoin stuff on the Eye in person. I haven't yet seen the Eye, but I when I get
Do you
there,
mean the sphere?
Yeah, the sphere. Sorry, yeah, the sphere. I always call it the Eye. Yeah.
I don't know. I just work with the speakers, so hopefully we'll see. But
Okay.
I've actually been in there, and it's awesome. It's a really cool spot.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much again, guys. Make sure you go to Bitcoin Conference 2025 in Vegas, May 27th through the 29th. We are embracing the game theory in Vegas, and it's going to be a blast. Bitcoin and Vegas is always a good time, even though Bitcoiners don't like to gamble. It's funny when they get together, they have a good time. So you got to make sure you go to this. It's going to be incredible. Of course, guys, use the promo code simply all caps to get 10% off your tickets, and we will catch you in Las Vegas. I hope to see all of you guys. And on that note, it's been a great day. We started Monday a little rough. Nico, as you can tell, Nico wasn't here. He's feeling under the weather. We've been traveling, but thank you so much. Craig, for the audio listeners, will you plug any of the stuff that you want people to go to? And then I'll have Luke do the same, and we'll wrap up for today.
Yeah, cool. So you can find me at Bitcoin_fan with a PH. It's a fish reference. Then also follow the Bitcoin Conf on Twitter, because that's where you'll see all the incredible speaker announcements that are going to be coming in soon. I wish I could share some more, but check those two places for all.
There we go. There's the sneak peek we wanted. It's coming soon. You guys will know the big names coming in. All right, Luke, on that note, thanks for filling in today. I'm still, I don't know. We'll see. Luke might be on the show tomorrow. I don't know if Nico's going to be ready for us tomorrow. So you might get a double dose of Luke. I'm thinking of maybe getting Rustin. I'll see if I got to figure some stuff out here. So Luke, will you plug your YouTube, your Twitter, all that good stuff, and then we'll wrap up today's show.
Yes, I talk trash on YouTube pretty much every day. Pretty sure I released a video about, 20 minutes ago of me probably talking less trash than usual, actually doing a somewhat okay video. So yeah, if you want to tell me I'm crazy or I've got a lesbian haircut, you can do that on YouTube or Twitter.
Oh man, this guy's gonna get us nuked. Okay, on that note, we are out. Guys, thank you for coming on today. Let me pull them behind the scenes. All right, it was Monday, April 7th. This was Simply Bitcoin Live. Of course, we will be dropping content later on our channel, but if you enjoyed this show, make sure you smash the like button. Comment on this show. Are we being bearish? Are we being bullish? Did we get you with the clickbait title? All that good stuff. And of course, smash the subscriber button if you think we are providing value for you guys. And we will see you tomorrow on the next Simply Bitcoin Live. Peace out.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.